Great. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us at our legislative briefing. With that, I will turn it over to Commissioner Fortman.
Good afternoon. My name is Laura Fortman. I'm the Commissioner of Labor, and as always, I'm joined by my colleague.
Hi, I'm Kim Smith. I'm the Deputy Commissioner.
And welcome. This forum is designed for legislators. Legislators, of course, can either ask questions through the chat box or unmute themselves and ask questions as we move forward. This is also being recorded. I believe that it's being transmitted live on Facebook today. Sometimes we've had some technical difficulties, but I think today Facebook is cooperating with us. So for the folks who are watching on Facebook, we are not able to take questions from you, but we do look at the questions that you submit and then try to include answers to those questions in subsequent briefings. The agenda today follows pretty much what we've been doing in the past. We'll go through some slides identifying some of the key changes that have taken place in programs over the last couple of weeks, and hopefully also to respond to questions that we've received from you in the last week or so. We have received a dramatic reduction in the number of questions, so hopefully that means that you're getting your answers in a timely way. So I think with that, we'll start with the slides. We're going to cover lost wage assistance program, some information about letters in terms of unemployment insurance contributions, some information about the programs, because as you know, we have multiple unemployment programs at the moment, go through a status update on the claims, talk a little bit about work search related activities, provide some information on some of the fraud that I'm sure you've heard that we're experiencing, and wrap up with a piece on some enhancements that we're doing for participants, and then open it up to questions. So the program that we're starting with is the Lost Wage Assistance Program. As you all know, this was a temporary program that was put in place through funds provided by FEMA. It was a time-limited program. It covers the weeks of August 2nd through September 5th. At this point, 69,550 people have received those lost wage assistance payments. About 1,000 people have fact-finding issues, and those need to be resolved before any payments can be made. If you recall, the lost wage assistance program is a $300 payment that is made to people who are eligible for unemployment insurance, but the program itself is a FEMA program. So the funds need to be distributed using non-unemployment insurance funds. So we can't use our staff for it. We have a separate bank account for it. The lost wage assistance benefits are not provided with the unemployment benefits. We process those on a daily basis. These are only processed once or twice a week. Also, the requirement from FEMA was that someone needed to be eligible for at least $100 in one of the unemployment insurance programs, or they would not be eligible. Some people, I'm sure some of your constituents, may not have understood the program. We have sent out 5,000 letters to people asking them to complete additional questions about whether or not they are they're either unemployed or partially unemployed due to COVID, and we are still waiting for answers back from some of those folks. So if you have a constituent who says that they have not received an LWA payment and they're concerned, please encourage them to check and see if they have received a letter in the mail from us. And if they have, they need to complete that information before we can process it. The appeals, and I know this was something else that there was some confusion around. When we say that the LWA eligibility requirements are not appealable, those are the fundamental things, that you must have received at least $100. You must be eligible for at least $100 in unemployment benefits. That was a requirement of the program from FEMA. That is not something that we can negotiate. However, if someone feels that they met the eligibility requirements and they have not received the LWA benefits, please have them contact us, and our staff will walk them through some questions so that we can address those issues. We're also receiving, I'm sorry, Kim, was there anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay. And we've, as you know, the legislature took action back in March to make some changes to unemployment insurance benefits, state unemployment insurance benefits. And one of the changes was that we were asked about was, is there anything that could be done for employers who are direct reimbursable? So these are nonprofits who have to, who do not pay into the state trust fund, but their employees are still covered by the UI trust fund. And the CARES Act had language in the initial bill that said that there would be that those direct reimbursable employers would only have to pay 50%. The way the original legislation was structured, those direct reimbursable employers would have had to have paid the full amount, and then the state departments of labor would reimburse 50%. The Congress took subsequent action to change that. And once that was ironed out, direct reimbursable employers will only need to pay the 50%, and the state will get reimbursed from the federal government for the other 50%. It took a while to iron all of those details out, and there were two steps that Congress had to take before we got to this conclusion. We are finally now in a place where we will be sending letters to those employers, letting them know what their requirements are and what they are, what benefits they are responsible for paying. We have made it clear in the letter that because of the timing, there will be no penalties or interest, and we lay out how much time that the employers have to make the payments. And Kim, I think you have some additional information to provide on this slide.
Well, we have a question from Senator Bellows about whether all employers received this letter. And so yes, all employers should be receiving this letter if they haven't already. We've been sending them out over the last couple of days. And it does identify anybody who has been charged to that particular employer if the benefits were not COVID related. So if there is a disagreement on an individual who shows up on that bill, there should be instructions in with that letter on how to contact the department and get that issue cleared up.
And I think the difference too is for contributory employers. So these are employers who traditionally pay into the UI trust fund. This is not a bill. They will receive a separate bill. This is just letting them know their former employees and what benefits were paid to them. And for the direct reimbursable employers, so again, those nonprofits, that is the bill that they will be receiving. We also, one of the things that we're trying to do is to make the correspondence that both employers and employees receive more understandable. And so we're working with some consultants, and the letters that were going out to the direct reimbursable employers included outreach to some direct reimbursable employers to test the language that was being used there and to get their feedback and make some modifications. And that was done with the contributory employers as well. And we will continue to use that model of trying to get some feedback from the stakeholders prior to sending information out. Sometimes timing doesn't make it possible, but to the extent that we do have any flexibility about getting that kind of stakeholder feedback prior to sending correspondence out, that's a practice that will be that we are implementing and we'll be trying to expand on moving forward. So this is, again, just a reminder. I'm sure all of you are very, very familiar with this. You know that currently we are running 4 UI programs. The first, as you can see on the top bar there, is unemployment insurance. This is the traditional state unemployment insurance, where someone, if they meet the monetary eligibility, have lost a job through no fault of their own, or able to work, available to work, actively seeking work, that UI program, if you meet the criteria, you could be eligible for up to 26 weeks in benefits. Many people who met those eligibility criteria back in March have exhausted that 26 weeks of benefits, and they have moved into the federal program, which is Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation. That program is available for up to 13 weeks of benefits. It looks very much like the traditional unemployment insurance program. And for most people, they would not have seen a dramatic difference, except the first week that they were eligible, there would be an additional form on their weekly certification that they would need to fill out. This program is available for up to 13 weeks. There are some folks who have exhausted not only regular unemployment insurance, but also the Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation, and they are currently in the extended benefit program. This is a state program. It is only available during high rates of unemployment, and it is up to 13 weeks of benefits. Normally, this is a federal state partnership where the feds pay 50% and the state unemployment trust fund pays the other 50%. Because of the pandemic, the federal unemployment program is picking up all 13 weeks of benefits. However, our unemployment rate has been dropping, and we anticipate that the extended benefit program will end sometime probably in November. As we get closer to an end date, we'll provide that information. But there is a specific calculation that's used to determine extended benefits. And as our unemployment rate continues to drop, we're seeing that this program will probably end sometime in November. When that happens, anyone who still has eligibility and has not used up 39 weeks of benefits will be moved into the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program. Now, that's the federal program that is for people who are not otherwise eligible for state unemployment insurance. If you remember back in the beginning, when people were trying to determine if they were eligible for pandemic unemployment assistance, the first step is to first determine that you're not eligible for state unemployment. So for this, you would have exhausted your state unemployment benefits, moved through pandemic emergency unemployment, and then if you have any weeks of eligibility left, you would be moved into pandemic unemployment assistance. And this is the federal program that is slated to end the week of December 26th.
Week ending December 26th.
26th, yeah.
And if I could just add on to that, when we talked about up to 39 weeks, it's reduced by any weeks of benefits that an individual received under the UI program and under the EB program. Those 39 weeks are not impacted by the 13 weeks of PEUC. So for instance, if somebody received the 26 weeks of UI and only 10 weeks of EB, went through PEUC and then got 10 weeks of EB before the program ended, they would have 3 more weeks of PUA eligibility.
Yep. And then the bar underneath is just pandemic unemployment assistance. And for that, it's a maximum of 39 weeks. Again, you know, Congress could take action that extends any of the federal programs. So the federal programs were pandemic emergency unemployment compensation, the PUA, and then the federal pandemic unemployment assistance, which was the $600 that ended July 20, the week ending July 25th. And there's some additional information about how the extended benefit program is calculated on here as well. And
so we have a question about how many people may exhaust after the week ending December 26th. And it's not a number that I have handy, but we can certainly find that out.
Yeah, and those would just be projections,
right?
Again, but we are watching that carefully.
We have seen weekly claims decline over time, even before the work search requirements were reinstated. If both initial claims and weekly claims have been declining over time.
Yep. We wanted to give you a quick snapshot again of what we're seeing. Again, these are the status of initial claims that are, you know, as Deputy Smith said, we're seeing a decline in the number of initial claims, but we still are seeing fairly significant numbers of initial claims being filed on a weekly basis. And this is a breakdown of what's happening with those folks and the kinds of issues that we're seeing. So about 67 people are waiting for that employer verification around separation. This is normally, the process takes 10 to 14 days. We have about 267 people who are waiting. They've been reviewed for unemployment insurance, been determined to not be eligible for state UI, and are receiving information about pandemic unemployment assistance, and we're waiting to hear back from them to see if they will be eligible for PUA or not. There are also about 125 people in what we call a pending status, and these are cases where either there's a mismatch on their wage information and the wage information that we have on record from the employer, or there may be a name mismatch or social security mismatch, and we're working through that process. And then we have 294 people who are waiting for fact-finding. And the next slide will go into a little bit about where we're at with those claims. As you can see, we have 3 people from July who are still waiting for fact-finding, 23 from August. The bulk of people are in October. There are still 65 people in September. We have expedited the fact-finding process to try to get through these as quickly as possible. And we look at the oldest claims first. The thing I want to point out here again, as we have in the past, is that sometimes someone shows up as a July claim when they may have initially filed in July, perhaps gone back to work, and then so the claim was canceled, they've reopened it and now have an issue. So it does not mean that these 3 people have actually been waiting for action from July. And I think, and I can't see the questions, Kim, I believe Senator Bellows had another question.
Yep, the first question is, how big is our fact-finding team at this point, and do we still have any of the law students with us working on adjudication and appeals? And I don't have the number that it's on the fact-finding team, the number of adjudicators we have. I don't have that handy.
But yeah, no, the law students went, most of them, I think we still have a few who are working with us, but the majority of the law students have moved on. That we were using the law students as a way of shoring up support until we could hire additional staff. And
we did hire a substantial number of staff in September. We more than doubled the size of the Bureau at that time. So I'm confident that we have at least doubled, but we can get the exact number of adjudicators that we have.
Laura, this is John Martin. Can you hear me?
yes, I can.
Thank you. I have a constituent who went through a fact finding, came back and said he was eligible, and then got a letter saying there'd be another fact finding. They set a date for it, I believe, last week, and then they canceled, said they would get back to him at some point. And this is a case which goes back to March. So I wonder, maybe have someone give me a call.
Yep, we'd be happy to do that. I'll have Isaac give you a call. And, we, of course, can't have that. I mean, it would be good to have more specific information so that we can dive into it. Unfortunately, fact-finding, and Kim can probably talk to this better than I can, you can have multiple issues. So it is possible, although we are trying to group, if you have an issue that may be around separation and there may be something else, whether or not you're able and available. I think in the past we would hold multiple fact findings. What we are trying to do is look at the individual and try to put all of the issues at the same time. But we can definitely check into that for you and find out what's happening with that particular.
I appreciate it, Laura.
Sure. Next. So we did reinstate work search related activities for everyone about 3 weeks ago now. And the point that we're trying to stress here, I mean, we recognize that the pandemic has created unique circumstances that make traditional work search activities more challenging. So we have expanded what can be included as a work search activity to cover skill development as well. The goal is to make sure that everyone is still connected to the workforce and that they are able to get the support that they need to enhance and strengthen their skills. So while it does, of course, include job search, traditional job search, and we have our employment services folks working very closely with people, trying to help them identify jobs that are available and matching those up and giving people an array of job opportunities that are out there. We have also worked to identify no-cost training that people can participate in, and as well as one-on-one career coaching and counseling that's available through the career centers, because we also know that there are folks who do not feel comfortable using technology and would prefer an over-the-phone service. So those are all available. As I think we mentioned before, the first time that someone does not meet their job search activities, they are sent a warning letter where we include the types of activities that you could be engaged in. That is a warning. There's no impact on your benefits for that week. If you do not participate in work search related activities the next week, then that week of benefits is at risk and could be denied. We have been tailoring letters to people to highlight specific kinds of opportunities that are available to hopefully help folks identify something that will work for them. The requirement is that you must participate in at least one activity per week. Many of these are offered online and virtually.
So we have a question if we have a number of the denials that have been issued due to work search for 2 consecutive weeks. So I believe in the first week we issued about 4,000 warning letters. And then last week it was about 1,000 fact findings that need to be scheduled. So no one has yet been denied for benefits.
And we were asked questions about people who are self-employed and what do they need to be doing. And the goal here is to support people as they are trying to reopen their businesses. We do know that some people are not going to reopen their business because they've decided that that's not what they want to do. And if that's the case, they need to participate in the same kind of work search activities as anyone else. However, if someone is sticking with their self-employment, they just need to indicate that yes, they are planning to reopen their business, and pretty much any steps that they're taking to make that happen would be compliant with what we're trying to achieve. We are updating our FAQs. We have also produced some short videos where for each of these topics so that people can understand how to fill out the work search forms. There has been some confusion around what if I am, my employer, I believe they're calling me back, but we don't have a definite date yet. Or yes, there is a definite date. How does that align with the 6-week work search waiver in the Maine statute? There have been no changes to that 6-week work search waiver, but there's a way for you to indicate on the form that you'd have to have that date in there in order to be able to take advantage of that. As we said, we've expanded work search related activities so that hopefully there's enough flexibility there that even if you do have children at home that you're trying to juggle, that there would be an option that you could do at a time of your, that, I don't know if convenience is the right word, but that you could fit into your day. We also agree that we want people to be mindful of their health. We don't want anyone engaged in activities that are dangerous for them or for their families. And that's why we try to expand what are the kinds of activities you can be doing remotely to satisfy those work search related activities.
Commissioner, I think you've done a great job with that FAQ, and I think it's really helpful just to help clarify for people the other potential work search things that they can do. I've gotten a couple of questions. I think people are trying to wrap their head around able and available to work in the context of and I can see it right here, quarantines or doctors suggesting that they shouldn't be, in a workplace, or children at home at the same time. And is it correct that if they're able and available to do work that is remote or online or home-based, then they are being truthful and accurate to say that they're able and available to work, even if they're not able and available to go to, a physical location that is highly crowded where they might actually be at risk?
Yes, that's how we're interpreting that. It's that you are able to work and available to work, and you are looking for work that meets your circumstances. So
they need to be looking for that remote work or that home-based job, or the job that happens when the kids aren't at home.
Right. And you could be taking classes in order to strengthen your skills so that you're more competitive for those jobs too. We also received questions about people who are working part-time. Traditionally, if you were working part-time, but you had left your previous employment had been full-time, the part-time work would not have satisfied your work search requirements. We are saying that if you are working part-time, that does count as your work search related activity. And we're asking to just put the name of the employer that you're working for in there and report the amount of earnings. Because as you know, you can, a certain amount of those earnings can be disregarded and you can still be eligible for partial unemployment benefits. I think I had said earlier, you are required to participate in at least one activity each week, and you should be documenting those activities. As you know, we're required to do a certain number of random audits. And so if you were part of that random audit mix, the better the records that you have, the easier that audit process would be. So we're also, because, and I think Senator Bellows, your question indicated this, of, people really want to provide accurate information and to be truthful. And we are starting to hear from people who are starting a job, going back to work, and they want to know, what do they need to fill out to let us know? And the answer is they do not need to provide any information for us if they have started going a new job or have returned to work. Basically, you just stop filing your weekly certification. If someone became unemployed again, they would need to call the 1-800 number to reopen their claim. But that's the only requirement. Kim, do you want to jump in here, or do you want me to do this?
Oh, I'd be happy to walk through it. We have sent a notification out to individuals who are currently receiving benefits, just to make sure that they are staying, vigilant as far as their security of their passwords and things like that. We have seen an uptick here of something that's been happening nationally, where bad actors have, in essence, taken over people's unemployment accounts. This is especially true when individuals are using the same user ID and password that they've used on other sites. We, on occasion, talk about the Anthem breach that happened here a few years ago. There was over 500,000 Mainers that were impacted by that. And it was named date of birth, user ID, and password were some of the things that were stolen in that breach. So if you're using user ID and passwords, it would be easier for somebody who's gained access to that to then gain access to your unemployment account and then change your payment method. So changing a routing number, changing the bank account, or shifting you from debit card to direct deposit. So we're encouraging people really strongly recommending that before you file your weekly certification, you go into the benefit maintenance tab, click on the payment options, and verify that the bank account that's listed there is the one you're expecting to see, or that your debit card is still the payment method that's active. Also, if you are using the same password that you're using on other sites, please change that as soon as possible. And we've also received some questions about, people receiving emails that a password reset has been requested. If you didn't request that, just delete that email. We also strongly suggest that you do go into your unemployment account, click on the forgot password and reset it. So we are never going to send you an email to reset your password if you didn't ask for it. So only click on password resets that you initiated.
So as I said at the beginning of the conversation today, we know that that the process of applying for unemployment has been challenging for many people, and we really want to improve the process for folks. We are working with a consulting group to help take the experiences that people have had and to do quick redesigns where possible. People can participate. We're doing a series of these. People can participate in just one of these short survey design sessions, or they can participate in multiple sessions. It has absolutely no impact on anyone's unemployment benefits. People are free to stop at any time. And we have a link up on our website for people who are interested in participating in this. And we have had some feedback already in some of the correspondence that we're doing through this process. So we're looking forward to doing more, utilizing this mechanism more. So
Is the end of our slides. So if you have any questions, please unmute yourself or put them in the chat.
Laura, let me give you my phone number.
You don't want to do that over this. This is a public mechanism.
Well, there's only 10 participants, so.
No, it's on Facebook, John.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you've got the legislative book anyway.
We can find you.
Appreciate it.
Commissioner Fortman, the concerns about the ongoing fraud, are the 3,000 fraudulent claims stopped this past week? Are those new cases of fraud, or
Every week?
every week? So that's not an issue that surfaced in Maine is going away in any shape or form.
No.
Okay.
I think what has, this is happening nationally, Senator, and the tactics are changing on a regular basis. And it's something all states are experiencing. And we are all working together along with the U.S. Department of Labor and the National Association of State Workforce Agencies to address this. And it really falls into 4 kind of distinct buckets. One is detecting the fraud. The other is, preventing it. And those are the claims that you're seeing canceled on a weekly basis. And then there's the cooperation with law enforcement around enforcement efforts and ongoing cooperation with banks and financial institutions in terms of recovery.
I've dealt with 2, which in the department, department dealt with one that I sent to them. It was an amazing case from Ashland. The other one's a little easier because it was one of those emails, but it is amazing what's out there.
It is.
And then what's the best place for us to direct employer feedback on the employer experience with the Reemploy Me site. I received feedback that, for example, they were having a hard time accessing it through Firefox web browser. There's some other, one employer asked, you know, is there a way to limit the amount of paperwork that's coming in the mail to him about employees? Do you have a recommendation for employers who have feedback on their user experience with the system?
Yeah, and employers are also part of the stakeholder group that we're reaching out to. So if you have those names of employers who are willing to participate, please, and I don't know that it's a separate email, but if you can provide their names to us, and then if we don't have a separate way for employers to do this, we can create one. But in the meantime, any names that you have, because we are actively recruiting. Okay. Okay, I think that's about it. We are also thinking there's a lot going on, and so our next briefing is probably not going to be until November, I think we're saying
The 20th?
20th. So again, you know how to contact us, and we appreciate your hard work, and please stay in touch. Thank you.
Thank you.